Hey guys, welcome to the channel. We have been doing some great content this week, a recap on our Kvike and pressure fermentation brew day, which you would have watched earlier this week, or depending on when I published this, at least a few days ago, where we did a taste test of that Sterling Pilsner that we brewed, and we did the Kvike IPA, and you brought an IPA to drink, and all this hasn't happened yet, but I'm telling you, we had a good time. And also, if I appear a little drunk, Mom, on that episode, it's because we drank a bunch. But anyway, we have brought Jonathan in a little bit early before we record all that to help us go over some content of questions we get asked all the time, specifically fermenting in a keg. I've never done it. I don't believe you've ever done it. It's not something we do, but it's something that you are very familiar with, and you brought a bunch of fun gadgets and all that. So it's not just fermenting in it, but also there's pressure fermentation in it, and there's also serving it like it's a unitank, right? So
exactly.
I'm going to hand over the torch to you, and you can take over the show.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things in a keg. One thing that has to be said, though, is a keg, whatever size it is, you're going to need to give the yeast some space to work. So if you've got a 5-gallon keg, maybe put 4.5 gallons of wort in it, and that gives the yeast a little bit of room to work. We've just got a little mini keg here today, which is it's a 1.75 gallon keg, and that's just for illustration purposes.
Very neat, though. I've never seen one.
And not good for fermenting it, unless you're doing a half a gallon.
Yeah, you would lose a lot.
Remember, that was all the rage, gallon batches. Several years ago.
You're right. Yeah, there's still.
I never did one.
No, I can't.
Why would you, right? So the first topic is just a regular fermentation, which everyone's familiar with, little airlocks and that sort of thing. This is a special lid that's made with a bung in it and an airlock. And you can do just a regular fermentation in the keg using that technology right there. You can expect that the krausen will rise vigorously as it does with a regular fermenter. So you just want to make sure you do have some space left over. The next thing you can do in a keg is pressurized fermentation. Obviously, kegs are pressure rated for a very high number, like 130 psi. Yep. So you don't really have to worry about blowing up your keg.
I like that
through fermentation. I know you're always
and even
worried
if you got to 130, which you wouldn't, it does have a pressure relief valve on it.
All kegs do have a pressure relief valve right in the top, but you can get your spunning valve and put it on your gas port and do the same thing. Put your wort in there and let it go, and dial your pressure in that you want. You'll find that with pressure fermentation, the krausen doesn't get so high because it keeps things down a little bit. But you can do your whole fermentation that way, just using the spunning valve. And then once you've completed your brew, another option you might want to do is to be able to serve right out of your keg. There's a few different ways to do that. Obviously, once the fermentation is done, you're going to have a big trub down at the bottom of your keg.
Thank you for the correct pronunciation.
Yes, trub, exactly. The dip tube runs down to the very, very bottom of the keg, so it will no doubt be buried quite deep in the trub. But there's a few different ways you can deal with that. One is you can cut that dip tube a little bit shorter, like cut an inch off the end of it, and that'll get you up above most of the trub. You may still get a little bit on the first few glasses, but that's one option for you. The other thing you can do is you can use a what do they call it? Floating dip tube. And in this case, it's just a stainless ball that floats, and it holds your dip tube up high in the water, or in the beer. And it's not so high that it's above the beer level, it's just right at the top. And that'll make sure that you're always drawing from the top instead of from the bottom.
And on that one, so I've seen those lids before with gas on them because they're using it with like a carb stone or something. Yep. Is that a lid that has now the liquid post on it for that sake? Or?
Yes, you can do it. You can do it either way. This one right now has a liquid post on it because that's how I used it last time. Right. But you can also use a gas post on the center. So you'll still have your regular gas post, you'll have your liquid post, and then in the middle you can either have a gas or a liquid post. So that brings up another topic, which you guys talk a lot about, is how to get your beer carbonated nicely. And there's all the different methods, set it and forget it, wait a week, it come back. Sure. You can do the shaking thing. A thing that I like to do, if I want a beer to be perfectly carbonated in 2 days, is I use one of these carbonating stones. And I'll put it on this center post again, and stick it in there, and just at normal serving pressure, it will be drinkable, very drinkable in 24 hours, and it'll be perfect in 48 hours. And you don't have to adjust the pressure at all. Whatever pressure you normally serve under, you just leave it, and it's perfect.
See, I may have done it overly sometimes when using a carb stone, and I just resorted to believing, oh, it's just going to be good for my water.
So because you did it at a higher pressure?
Correct.
Oh,
I think that's where I messed up.
Because we do it a lot we use one a lot with water, but water you're already carbonating at really high pressure, so it does it quick though.
Yeah.
And in theory, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't even have to really change the post because it doesn't matter what you're drawing. Like you can just,
no, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You can if you just want to keep the liquid post on there, just know you're using the liquid post every time, whether it's on your gas line or your liquid.
If you have MFL disconnects, you can just switch them back and forth.
That's what I was thinking. Before I would be like, oh, you'd have to switch them out. No, you don't. It doesn't matter. Save the time, because Todd will tell you last night he had me changing out post. I did not enjoy it. It wasn't fun. I whined a little.
Yeah, and he acted like he had never done it before. He's worked for a keg company for 14 years. I know he's done it, but when he doesn't want to do something, that's a whole different. We won't go through there.
So to wrap up, like the whole segment, real quick, do you think, is this like for you I have these, so I'll utilize it this way, or is this a preferred method of fermentation?
It's not a preferred method. It's kind of a specialized method. If you have a special event going on, I'll give you for instance. We go to Canada once a year, and we go fishing, and we're totally off the grid. I'm going to take a keg up there. I'm going to take some grain up there. We're going to get some water out of the lake, and we're going to ferment a beer in the week that we're there. So I'm going to use Kveik yeast, so it's going to be done in 3 days. So we're actually going to brew a beer on site, and we're just going to ferment and serve it right out of the keg.
That made sense. That's
awesome.
So everything carried in one vessel, usually just one vessel.
Yep.
One thing I could see it being useful for is like when we split those 3 batches up, that might be a nice way to do it, because if you're trying to get 5 batches, you don't have to go through use 3 different fermenters.
Sure.
So it might
just put them right in the keg.
I mean, I've never done it. I've thought about it, but I have so many fermenters, I've just never had a reason to.
Womp, womp.
So many fermenters.
So many. Yeah. But we will have links for these stuff in here. And people give us flat, Todd. I think it's time we start carrying some of this stuff too.
Okay.
Like we got some samples in of some other things people have been pressuring us to
Well, we're definitely going to bring that in. That's the duotite stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So look to the future, because as more people are specifically requesting us to cover this kind of content, it's pretty clear like this is something people are doing out of either necessity or ease of use, because like you said, they're brewing all the time and they have kegs, but they don't want to buy more conicals or something. But even those all-rounders, I'm kind of digressing, they're so affordable now. Getting into fermentation with adequate or better than adequate vessels is pretty accessible now to most people. It's been impressive. But anyways, Jonathan, I look forward to drinking responsibly with you later today and recording episode 289. And thank you for going over all this stuff on fermenting in a keg.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, check out all the other content at homebrewhappyhour.com or subscribe to us at youtube.com/homebrewhappyhour.